I'm glad to see all of you at our conference about digitalization, socialization, and digital education. And best wishes from Ukraine, Kyiv National University of Trade and Economics. And our logo you can see at the top of these slides. And we are a big university in Ukraine, Kyiv. Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine, and our university already has history, 75-year. Our university, and Department of Journalism and Advertising is young department. We separated from the marketing department, and our history of our department only 3 years. I had been stay as a head of department 2 years, but now we have some admin change, but I will share and introduce our information about our department, this information in Ukraine, but I will translate main points. We provide bachelor's and master's degree in field of journalism and specialization journalism and advertising, and our head now since 1st of September this year is Diana Favishenko. It's me. I'm PhD professor in economic fields, but I'm working at this department, and this is our staff, professors in different science. They deals with pedagogic science, philology, journalism, advertising, digital advertising, and PR, digital technology and advertising, graphic, and that's our staff, young staff. And we provide different courses: copywriting, creation, technology in advertising, and there are a lot of many interesting mass media interesting courses. We deal and we coordinate our business, our study with different organizations in Ukraine. Ukraine Associated of Marketing, Associating of Journalism in Ukraine, and a lot of we also participate in different research, like eye tracking in famous Ukrainian museum. They checked our reaction of some painting, some psychological reaction and behavior. Also, we deal with our partners media channel in Ukraine, and of course before quarantine we have a lot of activity with students on the channel. Every year we organize our conference in our department, and the spring conference is named Journalism and Advertising Vector of Interaction. And also we will invite all of you. We have our foreign partners, and this year we organize this conference online, also in Zoom, like today. We are today also, and this is our students. We have competition with students with digital advertising. We print their works at university, and after jury find the best works and bring gifts for students, and give them opportunity attend to business organization TV channels, and so on. This is our baccalaureate students because our department provide baccalaureate level and master level, and they hold their baccalaureate project like book on in their hands, and they're happy. But it's quarantine time, last year photo. This is before quarantine, our meeting, our activity in university. You see our students, we are library, we have this, we are glass, and this is our auditory, and this is their baccalaureate degree, and auditory class is empty because of quarantine, and students were represented their project online, but they of course printed and made like books. This, and this is our staff, about 15 teachers, and this is our university main building. And welcome to Ukraine, to Kiev, to Kiev National University of Trade and Economics, and many thanks for participation today in this conference, Professor Chirag and Research Cultural Society for this opportunity, provide this conference and discuss with you, with our colleagues, main interesting topics of the journalism and digitalization nowadays. Thank you so much.
Good evening, good morning. Welcome to Eurasian Conference on Digitalization, Socialization, and Educational Development. One and unique conference organized by Department of Journalism and Advertising from Kyiv National University of Trade, Economics, Ukraine, Europe. Welcome. This is a research culture society and Scientific Research Association. The co-sponsors are Institute of Educational Technology, Eurasian University, European Union. Today at 10th October 2021, and welcome to Keynote Session 2. I hope that yesterday all of you enjoy in our great conference with our chief guests, with our speakers, because digitalization, socialization, and educational development is today necessary. And we all know that in this hard time, in this pandemic of COVID, we all must be educated. And if we talk about digitalization, we know that technology is rapidly growing every day, and we must be step by that. So I'm Nada Ratkovic, moderator for this session. Here is with me also Teja Duani. I'm coming from Croatia, and I'm a professor, trainer, educator, researcher. I'm working like an assistant professor on Faculty of Economics, Business, and Tourism Split. Also, I'm a professor on International Internship University, a big virtual university. I want to present our first guest speaker, Yasmina Radivoljca. Yasmina is coming from the country, neighbor country from me. Yasmina Radivoljca is from Serbia, Europe. She is a professional neural language coach and EEC licensed teacher trainer. She has been working as a general and business English teacher for adults in various business environments. She has also taught teens focusing on exam-guided preparatory courses for internationally recognized English exams. Simultaneously, she has been pursuing a career of technical English Serbian translator, specializing in finance, banking, accounting, and auditing in particular. Over the course of her 25 years long career in both professions, she has gained extensive experience and expertise both as a teacher and also as a translator. In 2014, she set up English Wide Belgrade, a language services center that provides general and business English training and translation services for individuals and corporate clients. She is a member of Association of Court Technical Translators of Serbia, Belgrade. In 2020, she completed a series of teacher training courses in neural language and became a professional neural language coach, also a licensed ELC teacher trainer. Her vision is to apply neuro-language coding methods in language training and bring the neuro-language code course to fellow language teachers. Welcome, Professor Yasmina Radivoja, and today we are celebrating World Mental Health Day, and I hope that our Yasmina will also talk something about that. Welcome, Yasmina Radivoja. Also,
good morning to all of you, or good afternoon. It depends from where you are following. It is my pleasure really to be here today with you to share some of my observations and ideas about language teaching and language learning. At the beginning, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate and speak at this conference. I hope my presentation will live up to their expectations and be useful to all of you. As you can see from the title, I will talk about empowering language learners. So the words to empower and empowerment are heavily used really in many walks of life. But here I will present how it can be related to language teaching and language learning. And maybe mention, as Nada has already said, how it can be related also to mental health, since today is the Mental Health Day. So since Nada has so wonderfully introduced me, I will not talk about myself, and I will just go on to what really I have noticed from my teaching experience. I don't come from academic circles. I have been working mostly in the private sector for all these 25 years, and the major groups of my students are actually young adults, ambitious university students who want extra support in learning mostly English, in my case, but I'm sure there are also students who are pursuing learning other languages. These young people are usually in the final years of their studies, getting ready to start their professional careers. My students are also junior professionals who have already started to work, and then they are very motivated to start or to continue learning English. In the second group of my learners, I work mostly with experienced professionals, middle to top managers, business owners, and all these people are really experts in their fields, but they cannot speak English very well for a very sound reason, because they have been so busy doing their jobs and developing their careers that they have never found time really to learn the language. And then at one point, they have a huge discrepancy, like their professional expertise is really at a very high level, and their English level is lagging behind. So they're trying to somehow balance this. And I'm lucky that they find me and I have a chance to work with them. So what I have concluded from working with all these people is that what learners really want and need is to feel empowered. and to be in charge of their own learning. And this is really essential from what I have seen in practice. Our learners actually need us, educators, in their learning journey, not only as some kind of imposed, unquestionable authorities, but mostly as facilitators and guide partners on equal footing who will support and navigate them through the learning process. So in my presentation, I will talk about several things. So first, I will present several suggestions that you might want to consider in your teaching practice. Actually, you can use these strategies not only to empower students learning languages, but you can use this in any field really of teaching. It doesn't really matter if you work at a state school, university, vocational school, private language institution, or as a freelancer. So these principles or these suggestions, as I said, or strategies can be applied to any teacher really. Secondly, I will show 3 specific activities just as examples for you, just to give you an idea what a language teacher can do with students. The activities in the presentation are quite extensive, but I will just give you an overview so that you have some idea. Thirdly, I will go a little bit in more detail, just to give you again some concept of neuro-language coaching, what it is and how you can use it as a tool, how language teachers can use it as a tool to empower their learners. And then I will refer to a video presentation for which I'm afraid we will probably not have enough time. The title of this presentation is "Every Kid Needs a Champion." I have discovered this presentation, well, not really, I discovered it almost a decade ago. It was delivered as a TED Talk by late American educator Rita Pearson. And although she mostly talks about young learners in her presentation, in her talk, the principles that she advocates can be used really in any teaching environment. And in the end, I'm open to your questions. So if you have any, I will be happy to answer if I know. So let's get started, shall we? So let me just have a look. Okay. So what can we actually as educators do to help learners? So how can we feel them? How can we make them feel empowered? It is really important meeting students where they are. It is key to their social, emotional, and as Nada has mentioned, maybe even mental condition and academic success. And a piece of that puzzle is to allow them to be empowered, to be in charge of the learning process. So we want to ensure that we are teaching the whole learner, that we have a kind of a holistic concept of the learner, and that we are providing each student a learning experience that meets their personal needs. So who knows the learner better than themselves, you know? So students are aware of their likes and dislikes, their own opinions, the things that they feel confident with, the things that challenge them, as well as some dreams they may have. So sometimes we really need to step back as the teacher and give the floor to the students. We have to learn how to let go and how to hand over the power to them so that they can take charge of their own learning. Here in the presentation, I have included a few strategies. So what are the possible strategies we can use? Of course, this list is not the final. So I have just chosen some of the things that I have personally noticed and I think may be important. Any teacher can add anything that they really consider relevant. So the first thing here is giving students the freedom of choice. In my presentation, I will ask actually all of us a lot of questions that we might consider after we leave the conference. So do we really give our students freedom of choice? I'm not sure how how free or limited we are by programs that are imposed on us. Then there is an issue of reflection. So do we give learners a chance to reflect on their own learning? Again, something to think about. Something that I personally think is very, very effective is putting learners into the role of teachers, because we all know that when you have to teach somebody something, then you test how much and how well you know the subject that you are, or the topic that you are trying to teach somebody else. Another strategy that we may use, and I'm still not sure if we use it enough or even at all, is self-assessment. So do learners have a chance to self-assess, to grade their own work? Do we ask them how happy or how successful they think they are with their learning? Then do we actually listen to them at all? Or do we expect that they just listen to us? So this is again something to think about. Putting students in charge is a great thing to do too. Some time ago, I joined an initiative from a contact on LinkedIn. He's a principal of a Montessori school in Australia. His name is Gavin McCormack, and he posted something that I liked very much on LinkedIn about putting students in charge. He said, I had a very, very naughty girl in in one of my classes, and I made her the captain of the school. And all the other teachers opposed my decision. But when she became the person who was in charge and responsible for others, she really became the real captain, and she ensured that everybody else behaved very well because she felt empowered. So this is a very nice story. I read it maybe a few years ago and I was really delighted, and I just remembered it now really spontaneously. The next thing we can do is broadening students' sense of responsibility. That somehow goes hand in hand with the previous point. And from my point of view, what is definitely my most important conclusion from working with especially adult learners, whether they are really young professionals or seasoned managers or whatever experts they might be, is relevance. So how connected the things that we are teaching them are to their real world, to their personal experience of the world. So if things are not relevant, they are not really going to benefit from what we are telling them in the long run. So this is, as I say, these are really observations from my practice. I'm sure a lot of other teachers, including everybody here, would have something to add. Okay, so let's just refer to the first of these things on the list. So these are just some of the questions that I have jotted down for us all to think about. So do we allow students to choose the goals they work on? Or are we really limited by university curriculum or whatever institution we are working for imposes that curriculum? Or do we really give them the freedom of choice? Can they choose their materials? Maybe sometimes. And what about the resources, where the contents come from? Can they choose that? Are they allowed to choose the path they take to reach their academic goals? This is again something that I have noticed to be really, really important, because if you teach a person who has, for example, let me give you a realistic example. I have worked with a very successful business lady. She approached me by asking me to teach her to fight with her suppliers in English. I was really surprised and a bit, it came as a bit of a shock to me. I said, okay, but can we just explore this a little bit more? And could you tell me, why would you like to fight people in English? She She said, but they don't understand our market. And I said, well, can we just try to dig deeper into it and see if we can learn how to negotiate with your suppliers so that you don't have to fight? And she laughed at this and she accepted my proposal. But then she said, you see, I'm a very successful person, but I have no concept of grammar at all. So you cannot teach me grammar by giving me a list of rules. You have to find a way to present it to me so that I can understand. And by digging deeper into what she really wanted, we actually found the right way for her. And that is learning grammar by color papers. And that was her path, because if I insisted on what I thought was really, the right way, it would not have been the right way for her. So exploring and giving learners the freedom of choice in the way they want to learn really makes the difference, at least in my experience. Okay, so, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's see what would be the next thing. I'm not very technically literate person, it seems. Okay, so the next thing on the list of suggestions of strategies is reflection. So how reflective are students in their learning, moment to moment? Are they really actively thinking about what they have learned or what they haven't learned? Or they're just, continuing without any reflection? They have a lot of information to swallow, a lot of facts to learn, and then they just don't reflect on what they have finished, what they have completed. They just continue no matter how this goes. So I think that it is really important to set aside the time for reflective purposes, not to push it just sideways when the time runs short. So it is important to make really reflection a part of the regular routine. So students must really actively engage in the learning process and reflect on their own personal contributions, knowledge, and connections they make. They need to be allowed time to process their learning as a step of retention, because one thing is just to memorize and maybe reproduce in the short term, as a result of a short-term memory, but to retain it and to use it like this lady in negotiating with your suppliers, in negotiating to get a job, in passing an exam at university. So this is, and just to have a real benefit from what you have learned. I think that if we want to achieve that, we have to give the learners a chance to reflect. And what I always ask my students at the end of every single session, I really never forget it, is how do you feel about the class today? How do you feel about our session today? How do you feel about what you have contributed or what you have produced in our class? And that makes a huge difference, really, because this gives them the power to really actively observe themselves as learners and make conclusions. And then we adjust. It is like a fine dance, really. It is fine tuning, and reflection serves to do just that. Okay, so let's see what would be the next suggestion for you. Students as teachers. Generally, students as sharers of information, honestly, this is my first conference that I have been invited to participate in, and I was terribly concerned how all this would go. Although I have been teaching for 25 years, and you would expect that a person in my position wouldn't have any problem to participate in the conference. But still, I was concerned because I was not sure who the audience would be and what they would actually expect very specifically from me. But I decided to flip my classroom, and from being a teacher who is comfortable in my teaching position, I somehow saw myself as a student in terms of having to prepare this presentation and try to do something that I have never done before. So I really feel empowered now that I'm talking to you at this conference. So do we give the students that we work with opportunities to articulate their knowledge? You know, today you teach them something, and next week or in your next class, you ask them instead of you, and you in a way save a little bit of your energy by doing that. You give them the chance to do your job, to see if they can do it. If they can pass the information, if they can do a review session with other students, you know, this is a very responsible, you know, task, a very serious responsibility, and they will feel appreciated. You know, they will feel very big and very important. And that is the way to go from what, you know, from my point of view. So are they given a chance to help others understand the concept? I'm not sure that we do it actually in practice, especially if you work with big groups, if you work at university where you cannot teach maybe small customized groups of students, but still there is probably something you can do. Maybe not a lot, but you can try with, you know, some really modest moves to adjust. So do we get them to demonstrate their strategies and assist others with a similar learning style? Again, this is something to think about. So to make them think, how can the way I learn, or how possible is it that the way I learn something can be the way that you can learn too, if we are talking about a peer-to-peer communication between students. So how can I, as a student, help you as a student to find your learning style? Just, you know, just a point to consider. Okay, next. The next thing is self-assessment. As I said, I don't come from academic circles. I don't work at university. I'm a private practitioner. And why have I never decided to work for a big state institution or, you know, a big, very formal institution? Because I hate tests. And not as a student, but as a teacher. This might come as a very strong statement to all of you, but I really, especially in language learning, especially with adults, no matter if they are young or, you know, more experienced, I really don't see the point in giving them tests, in testing the language. Why? Because they just do the test and go away, and that test doesn't have any purpose. It doesn't give them the sense of achievement, because it is just a huge source of stress. And this is just, it just engages their short-term memory. So they just, you know, learn some new words, learn some new structures, and then they forget it. And what I normally say to students, for example, last week, a few days ago, I went to visit a new potential client, an accounting and auditing company in Belgrade. They have 7 young accountants who want to learn English for accounting, English for specific purposes. And I gave all of these candidates a chance to ask me anything they wanted, absolutely anything. And they were so modest and so cute. And they were so shocked that somebody asked them to ask a question of their choice, because they are never asked to ask a question. They just have to do what they're told. And one of them asked me, if our management decides to work with you, will you give us tests? And I said, absolutely not, unless your management insists on that. And he was so happy. This young man was so, his face just brightened up. Why? Because, and he asked me, is it really possible that we will not have any tests? I said, yes, it is absolutely possible, because you are tested every day. The real test is for you to answer a phone call from a foreign client who wants you to explain the calculation of their VAT. You need to analyze a balance sheet for your foreign client. So it is already a source of stress. Having to speak in English that you don't feel secure about is already enough. And you are all tested really in real life. So you don't need me to test you. So what can we do instead? We can give them a chance to do self-assessment. And honestly, what I have seen in practice is that people are extremely strict with themselves, much stricter than when the teacher gives them a grade. Because as I say, in my position as a language teacher, I get to work with very motivated students who are ready to invest a lot in any field of their personal development. And they are very, very harsh with themselves. They're very critically oriented and critically thinking about their achievements and their work. So it is okay to give them a chance to do self-assessment. They will not cheat, especially if you show that you trust them. The only thing that might be an issue is giving them a specific criteria. But if you provide the criteria, they will probably follow it very easily. So if you say, this is what it should be like, so this is a supposed outcome, and just consider where you are at the moment, I'm sure you will have very, very interesting and very useful results from this feedback. And it is really important to give them this opportunity to self-assess their own progress towards specific goals. In that case, their growth will soar, really, I'm sure. So they can also be given the chance to positively impact others' learning by offering feedback. Again, it provides the clear message that there are other experts in the learning environment. So you are not the sole authority. You are not the only master of the situation. They also count. They also matter. So allowing students to engage in these conversations really expands their academic and developmental awareness. You can maybe take 5 minutes at the end of the class for students to respond to the following questions. And as I have already mentioned, what did I learn today? Or what did you learn today? What do I still have questions about? So they can, you can give them a chance to ask themselves these questions. Or how can I use this knowledge maybe to take a test, to complete an assignment, or to accomplish something else in life? This makes them responsible for their own learning in a very concrete way, and they really appreciate it. Now I have, for example, a new young girl, a young marketing professional, an absolute brilliant of a person, really, and a diamond. And she found me on some social network, connected with me, and we started to work together. When I ask you, what do you think you learned today? How happy are you with your contribution in our session? Her face lights up and she becomes very, very detailed in her observations, much more detailed than I would be, because she knows herself and she knows what she wants to achieve. So it really makes a difference if we ask these questions, okay? So that brings us to listening to the student or student's voice. I know that if you work at a very formal institution, students are, you are the boss, and students are there to follow the rules, because especially in really big institutions with a lot of students, not everybody can do what they like. But even in this environment where you have to follow very formal structure, hierarchy, rules, I'm aware of that, you can always spare a few minutes and ask them for their opinion. Nothing will go wrong. You cannot fail. Maybe you will not agree with everything they say or with their point of view, but it will give them the opportunity to feel that they matter, that they have some kind of power, at least in some degree. Of course, you can tell them, yeah, you can voice your opinion, and then we can discuss it and decide if it is really relevant or if it really matters or whatever you want to achieve. But, you know, is their voice used to make decisions in the classroom at all? Do you allow them to provide feedback? Is their feedback honored? Do you appreciate what they say? You know, you can think that you have had a wonderful class, but actually, maybe you haven't. Okay, and you know, your point of view might be completely different from how they perceive maybe that particular class, or you know, a series of sessions or whatever, workshops, whatever you deliver to them. So listen to them. You know, really nothing can go wrong. You cannot fail. They cannot fail. What is really important that I haven't mentioned so far, and I think that is also connected to what Nada has mentioned about mental health, is to provide a safe environment for your students so that they feel that they are at a safe place. Even at a big institution, you know, nothing prevents you from saying, when you are in this class, when you are with me, you are safe. It is okay to learn, and when we learn, we do make mistakes. Still, you are safe. We will, you know, nothing will happen, nothing bad will happen to you if you say something wrong. When I have new learners coming to my office, or now in the virtual classroom, this is one of the first sentences I say when I meet them for the first time. So whatever happens in this space with me here, you are safe. This is a magic word for learners, you know, because nobody wants to feel threatened. And most of the time, especially with completely new topics, learners feel really intimidated because they don't know. You know, if you don't know, if you lack knowledge, you feel weak. If you feel weak, it is easy to threaten you. So to make them feel safe, to articulate that and give them the chance to speak their mind works wonders, I think. So you can think, as I say, these are all, you know, just points to consider. I might be wrong with some conclusions, but it will just give you some food for thought. So let's go. Sorry. Yes, then the next thing is putting students in charge. As I have already mentioned, this little story about this captain of the school girl. Well, it speaks for itself, really. If you ask students what they want to get out of your course or from your subject at university or whatever school you work at, they are shocked. So students are honestly shocked when you ask them very meaningful questions about what they want to achieve or what they want to take away from the learning. Students, because they are usually not asked, they may be uncomfortable. Actually, they are used to being told what to do, but in the end, if you put some effort into it, you might discover their true goals. And once the students have had a chance to share their views, to say what they think, you can provide an alternative perspective. For example, if we talk about homework, whether, as I say, as a higher education institution or wherever you are, sometimes you have to give some homework. And of course, students oppose homework. And they can say, well, we don't think it is a good idea. You can say, well, I'm sure you would like to have no homework all year, but we have to get through this program and there isn't enough class time. So we have to have some homework, and maybe you can reach some compromise, but they have to feel heard, and then you can negotiate, right? They have to feel that you are not just a loudspeaker, like shouting information, you know, just feeding them with information they have to swallow. That they are live creatures too. So this is, as I say, something to consider, and definitely putting a person in charge develops their sense of responsibility, develops their leadership skills, if you will, you know, and then they take care that others actually carry out the tasks they have to do or behave better or well. So they ensure the order maybe that you are longing for. So take a little risk, put them in charge, maybe. Which brings us actually to a sub point of this, maybe in some way, and that is to broadening students' sense of responsibility. So the fastest way to empower students is to make their work matter in the real world. So that will bring us finally to the last and the most important point, and that is relevance. So at times, empowering learners, as I said, can feel like a risky move. But if you can take up the challenge, you may end up with more engaged, more interested, and more empowered students as a result. So try it. You know, I have tried a lot of things. I have applied in a lot of situations the trial and error approach. You try out something, you're not happy, you change it. You know, nothing is a given. We can change. We can. My original presentation for this conference was completely different from this one. I reworked it only yesterday, you know, to get the final output. So, you know, you can also try out new things. So, as I said, this will bring us to the final part, to the final suggestion as a strategy to empower your learners, and that is relevance. I would circle, underline, highlight this as the really most important point, as the highlight of this presentation. Why? Because connecting what they learn with their real world is the only way to make them retain that material, that knowledge that they acquire, that they swallow from you. Everything else is just short term. And what I have noticed from many years of practice is that learners have to see that, for example, learning a language can help them solve some problem, change a situation, achieve a goal, whatever this immediate issue, let's say, might be in their immediate reality, you know. We will maybe touch a little bit later in the presentation on using course books, maybe not, but let me just make a little digression here. What has always irritated me as a teacher is when I was being a classical teacher, I usually worked with ready-made course book-based English programs. So you get a book from a publisher, you know, usually a British or an American publisher. You get a book and you just cover all the units in the book. And in one of those units is usually a disaster story in a remote part of the world. And I have 8 middle managers from a public institution, from a public company in Belgrade. So how motivated are these middle managers dealing with operational business to learn about a disaster in a remote part of the world? And how is this unit in a ready-made course book related to their life? In absolutely no way. So what I decided to do after a few years, I just skipped the unit. And instead of, you know, exposing them to some horrible stories from a completely unrelated book, I asked them, have you experienced a serious incident? Have you experienced a dramatic accident in your life? How do you feel about that? What happened? And then we could use that as a basis either for vocabulary practice, for using past tenses, for telling a story. I could work around that as I wanted, as I saw fit, based on the output they provided for me. So this is what it means to make the learning relevant. You have to be able or to find a way to connect it to the learners. You know, books are fine. Books, I appreciate books, and I still work with publishers and I use books. But the point is that you are the master of the decision what you will do with that book. So the book is not the master. The book is a tool, and you as the teacher have the power. You are also empowered to decide, either alone or preferably with your students, what works for you and for them, and what really matters. So this is maybe the most important point that I want to mention here. So if they do not connect what they learn with their life, with their real world, with their jobs, with their interests, with their hobbies, with their passions, it is very unlikely that they will retain the knowledge that they acquire. So therefore, making learning relevant is critical to getting them to learn with a sense of purpose. So this is the last of the 8 possible strategies you can consider for the teaching practice. So this is one part of the presentation. I will conclude with this. In the second part, very briefly, I will touch on the activities you may be, this is, as I say, exclusively for language teaching, but you may consider something similar for other subjects too. So I included here 3 activities. The first is called feelings, then decisions, and what I am, what I think I am. I like the third one very much, the title. So let's just very briefly see what this is all about. As I said, they are very extensively described, but there are a lot of words on the next few slides, but I will just give you a brief overview. So the first language activity is intended for elementary to pre-intermediate students. It is about exploring feelings. And here you have the purpose, the focus of the activity, and the strategy, the course of the activity. The point is to give learners a chance to answer questions about how do you feel when. So you can divide the learners in teams, in pairs, whatever, but the point is to explore their feelings. So how do you feel when you are praised for doing a task well, you are not included in the game? This is a very important question because it is connected to social pain, which we address a lot when using neuro-language coaching as a tool. So what happens to a person who is not included in a game? It is very, very important to think about that. Do they feel, how does that make feel, how does that influence a person when they feel rejected? Extremely important. And what we can do to cure this social pain. Then how do you feel when something has been taken away from you, or when you share something with a friend, or when you want something that belongs to someone else, and so on? You can adapt that. It doesn't have to be only a language activity. You can adapt that to any subject and just change the focus of the experience that you connect with the feelings. How do you feel when you create a fantastic advertisement? How do you feel when you get a great deal with your clients? It depends on what subject you teach. How do you feel when you fail at a negotiation? How do you feel when your transcreation work has been rejected by a client, and so on? So you can use this in various ways. The most important thing of the activity is to connect the feelings they express to their real life, asking them what situation make them experience either positive or negative feelings in your related field of study. And of course, you can do a little bit of an assessment at the end. You can ask them, how were students able to demonstrate their ability to express their feelings in the case of language learning using oral language, or in the case of advertising, in the case of other business fields, whatever the field of study is. So this is just to give you an overview. The next activity is intended for intermediate language learning students, and it is about making decisions. Of course, you can also adapt this into business studies or journalism or advertising or whatever field you are covering. So here you have the purpose. The purpose of this activity is to help students develop decision-making skills. It can be applied to anything from their private life to business, to personal relations, whatever. So you have the focus here, again, the strategy or the course of the action in the activity. And what do they have to do? They have to read. In this case, I have included 4 stories. These 4 stories contain an ethical dilemma. So what decision is the right decision in that particular situation in terms of ethics? So here I have included some very general topics. And what would you do or what would you have done if you had found yourself in the same situation? Again, you can adapt it to business situations. There are so many double-edged sword situations in business where you're not sure if you will pursue this way. Will it be the ethical decision to make, or if you pursue another way, will you do something wrong? Will you harm others? So there are a lot of ways to work around this. So you can give students a few stories, a few situations, again, from real life that they will, that you will impose, read to them, or make them read, or even write themselves, and then they have to they have to present their decision, and they have to justify it. They have to give you the argumentation. And finally, it is very, what is again the relevance of this? The relevance, what makes it connected to their real world, is to discuss any similar situations from their real life, whether it be business or studies or private life, to make decision-making on ethical matters more relevant for them. You as a teacher, I'm sure you face a lot of ethical dilemmas when it's in grading. That's why I don't like tests, because for me, it is a huge stress, huge source of stress to grade students. I really don't like to do that. So I would probably be a victim of ethical dilemmas in grading students. So you can even apply to yourselves as teachers. So just something really a suggestion of a task, of an activity to think about. And again, you can assess your students' work. Okay. The third activity is intended for upper level language learners. And I like this very much because it gives you a very nice sense of power. Because when you say, I am what I think I am, so that means that you are the master of your own fate, right? So the purpose of this is to help students learn how to think using their experiences, and to have them understand that they have some control and power in being the masters of their own fate, as I have just said. So here you have the focus of the activity, again, the strategy, so how the activity develops. But what do they have to do? They have to bring, or you can bring, but preferably they have to do this task. You can ask them to bring a story, a short story about a person. It can be a historical figure. It can be a famous inventor, like I have suggested here, Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, a business person, Steve Jobs, somebody who lived in the past or is still living. In this case, I put everything in the past to have the additional benefit of practicing past tenses for the language purpose. But if you are in another field of study that you teach, you can adapt it to your situation. So you ask them to bring you a story about, let's say, an admired person, somebody who feels important for them, somebody who they look up to, maybe professionally, maybe privately, a person from history books that you have never heard of, and you will learn something too. You know, so we are all from different countries. I'm sure there are so many interesting national figures from history that your learners may admire. Anybody, whatever works for them, this is important. Tell them to bring you a story about a person who was able, in spite of the obstacles imposed in front of them, by using their character traits, their determination, grit, will, and hard work to overcome these problems and barriers. And in this case, if we go back, here I found a story about Frederick Douglass. I never heard of this story before. I found it for this purpose, who was born a slave in the United States, and because accurate records were not kept for slaves, it is estimated that he was born at the beginning of the 19th century, and he was a quick mind, and he had a desire to learn. He was taught the alphabet by his master's wife until his master terminated the lessons, and his hunger for knowledge was enough to guide him to overcome all the obstacles that he faced as a slave in the slavery era in slave-ridden America. So this is the idea, to find a problem and a very strong person to solve the problem that your learners admire, not you, but they. And that brings us to doing the task. So this little story can serve as a base for more extended research on that particular person or the historical period. And then you get them to discuss how important character traits are and which character traits are important if you want to, go from rags to riches, from slavery to freedom, from a very, very hard situation, to turn around your life and make it a success. So you can give them options about how they will prepare and present their research on that selected person. They can work individually, they can work in pairs, in teams, anything can work. The most important thing is, on the next page, to make the activity relevant to the learner's real life. Student will list, after you do all these tasks, student will list some problems or situations they have experienced, and they will write or speak about how their character traits can help solve those problems or deal with these situations. And that is relevance. Okay, so this is how you can work around this. So with this, I would actually finish this activity part. And in the next part, I will focus a little bit more on neuro-language coaching as a tool to empower students. And let me just find my paper notes too. So let me just change the slide, just a sec. Okay. So, as Nada has wonderfully introduced me, I'm really honored. I am a professional neuro-language coach and an ELC licensed trainer, certified and accredited by ICF. ELC stands for the company English Efficient Language Coaching, founded by an English lady whose name is Rachel Mary Paling, and ICF stands for International Coach Federation. So, what is neuro-language and how have I come across this concept? First of all, I would just like to point out that I was teaching for 13 years, from the year 2000 to 2013, in a big private English language teaching institution in Belgrade. And I was very happy with my job, and I developed really a lot as a teacher. But in 2013, I quit. I was a little bit tired. my family expanded. I have 4 children, and when I got my 3rd and 4th child, the twins, I had to change something in my routine. So I decided to take a plunge into private business. And when I started to work with almost exclusively in one-to-one sessions with my first private clients, I'd realized that yes, I could use what I learned as a teacher in this big, really very progressive school, but that was not enough. I had to adapt. I had to do everything that I have just explained. I have to personalize my teaching, and I had to become a much better listener, because my business and my budget and my life depended on these people. It's a very easy, a very simple concept, you know. So you do everything to make yourself better. And I started to note down, you know, I somehow started to have very detailed introductory sessions with my clients. And I was asking them a lot of questions about what they wanted to achieve, how they wanted to learn, how much time they wanted to devote, if they wanted to work with books, if they didn't want to work with books, if they wanted to bring their own materials. And I noted down everything, and I started to follow them like a shadow, really, as a teacher. So I was really supporting them from the background. And then after a few years of working like that, I started to search on the internet for, I realized if I am doing this in my own and this way, there must be somebody else who thinks like me. I'm definitely not an exclusive person in this world. So I wanted to see if there was something that would actually confirm my line of thinking, and I found it. And that was neuro-language coaching. Why is it so important? Why is it so interesting? Why was it so interesting for me as a teacher? Because what I realized after reading about it, after watching the first video clip, and after then reading a book written by Rachel Mary Paling, Neuro-Language Coaching, I realized that it really is the thing for me, because neuro-language coaching combines the coaching tools and techniques from business and life coaching. So it gives you tools, it gives you coaching style conversation templates, if you will, or script, or style of communication that you can use in teaching your clients. So you get that from neuro-language coaching, from the coaching side, and from the neuro side, from the neuroscience, you get neuroscientific findings about the brain, about how the brain reacts, how the brain functions, and how the brain learns best. And that was a big go for me. And it was just a natural continuance of how I have started to develop myself. And it gave me structure, it gave me the framework, it gave me some kind of a concept, so that I was not only following my learners as a shadow, but I knew now what I was doing, right? So by using neuro-language coaching, we really help the learner overcome, first of all, social pain, because all these people who might be very successful students or professionals, when they come to my office, their first answer is, I feel so insecure. I'm afraid that people will laugh at me because I can't speak English as much as I think I should, or as well as I think I should, you know. And they are shy, and they are weak, and they are afraid of social rejection. So this is the core issue that we treat by using this concept as a tool. So we really help them overcome motivational and emotional blocks, and we help them acquire any new language. So this concept can be used for teaching any language in the world. So it is not only related to English. So we really help them acquire a new language quickly, effectively, if we go back to my lady who had no concept of grammar, when I told her, you know, do you agree that we use blue for the past? Let's say you made peace with your past and let's make past blue. She said, great, blue works for me. So when we are in the blue, we are in the past. I told her, since the present matters are usually urgent, let's make them red. So this is your present tenses, present simple, present continuous. And let's make the future bright. So let it be yellow. And she said, and I asked her, how does that work for you? She said, oh, it works great, you know. So blue is my past, red is my present, yellow is my future. So did, does, will. If I had written all the 2 or 3 pages of tense rules, she would have left me in a month. And in this way, she stayed with me for 3 years. And now she's a completely independent, competent speaker, a business owner, and a sales director, running international business. Very happy with herself. So this is what neuro-language coaching is all about. Adapting, finding the right way the brain soaks the knowledge. So it really enables the learner to be the master of their own learning. It empowers them to choose something that is really here coming from coaching. So we do have this coaching process is observed. So we help them choose and set their own goals. And from goals, we help them choose the right activities based on how they like and how they learn best. They get a chance to choose their own materials, and they get a chance to choose their time frames. Time frames are very important, because without the time frame, without setting the time, we are not in a coaching conversation. They have to decide autonomously or with our help, when do they want to achieve a particular goal. And it works great for learners. So this is why I decided to become a neuro-language coach. And I'm very happy about that. As I have just mentioned, so this concept was created by Rachel Mary Paling, a wonderful lady who is running this concept. She created it, she crystallized this concept in 2012. And this concept is currently successfully used around the world, both in teaching languages to younger learners and adults. So it can be adapted to any age. And the Neuro-Language Coach Network gathers at the moment around 1,000 trained neuro-language coaches and 18 teacher trainers worldwide, including myself. And you can find a little bit more about coaches on the neurolanguagecoachnetwork.com. So every single neuro-language coach is presented on this site. Also, there are introductory webinars and extensive courses for teachers of all languages available worldwide, sometimes in person, sometimes online. So you can get more information about that on language coaching certification.com. As for myself, well, you can see my credentials here as a professional language coach and a teacher trainer. And I will be delivering another free webinar for language educators on the 25th of October at 8:30 in the evening, Serbia time. So if you are free and if you think it might be interesting, do join in. No strings attached, you can just follow and see. Even if you are not a language teacher, you might again take away some things that you can use in your teaching practice. We have just announced also an extensive course that I will start on the 6th of November. It will be a weekend group course, which will run for 6 or 7 weeks, I think. The whole course has 36 hours of learning. And the whole neuro-language coach education training has 3 levels, like this, let's say, first module of 36 hours, then advanced module, professional module, And it is about, I think about 90 hours, 90 learning hours. And then finally, for those who want to become teacher trainers, there is another course. So all in all, the whole concept is covered in a little bit more than 110 hours of learning. So it is a very serious and extensive training. So as I say, do come along, join me for the webinar just to find out a little bit more, because here the time really is, I have probably exceeded the limit already, and I will be finishing in a few minutes. This is for Neuro language coaching side. The bonus that I want to give you, just again as another suggestion, and I am really begging you to do what I will tell you to do, okay? Even if you don't do anything else from this presentation, do this last thing. And that last thing is cherry on top of everything for me. And that is a video presentation that we cannot watch now. It lasts 7.5 minutes, 8 minutes, let's say. And it was delivered, I think, more than a decade ago by late American educator Rita Pearson. I think she was from Louisiana. She died, unfortunately, of some severe illness. And this is her absolutely essential talk for every educator. And the title of this talk is "Every Kid Needs a Champion." If you have already seen it, I apologize. But judging from my experience, when I was conducting some workshops for teachers before, I was once working with 150 teachers, and I asked them if they had seen this clip, and nobody raised their hand. So there might be a chance that you have not seen it so far. So every kid needs a champion. Please just follow the link or jot it down and find it on YouTube. Once again.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Yasmina, for a wonderful presentation. First, I want to say that you said that this is your first conference. You really empower us. So I don't know why you wait until now. I will say something about strategies. We all here, we all educators must use these strategies because freedom of choice, reflection, students, teachers, self-assessment. Then when you said no test, I will agree with you about self-assessment with no test. The activities, the last part of this, your session was great. A big congratulations. You really motivated us. You motivated me. I send you a friend request immediately on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Yes, and thank you very much for this great presentation.
Great. I'm really happy and honored to hear all this. So do connect. This is my final message to everybody, not to steal the other presenters' time. Okay. If you have any questions, just write to me. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we are going to move to our next speaker. Our next guest speaker is Dr. Enkeleda Lulai from Kosovo, Europe. All the speakers are nearby me. So, our Enkeleda Lulai is a Doctor of Science for Finance and Accounting. She works at Ecdsed University, Faculty of Management in Tourism, Hospitality and Environment, Free State of Kosovo. She is Ambassador for Financial Evaluation, Ambassador for Women Tech, and as well as Ambassador for Research and Science. She is a Country Director of Ecdsed International Young Society, Country Director of World Voice International. She is a board member in several countries of the world: United States, Belgium, Georgia, India, Germany, Denmark, Ukraine, Georgia. She is a supervisor at international conferences in Belgium, Switzerland, Austria, France, Turkey. She has given many lectures at universities all around the world, such as America, India, Indonesia, Egypt, Philippines, Belgium, Germany, Albania. And also I can say that I met our Enkelada on the conferences, and I know her from these conferences, and she is amazing researcher also. So she is a winner of many awards in the world for teaching science, creative ideas, a successful woman for peace. She thanks God for all the successes. Dear Enkelada, Lulai, welcome. Welcome to the conference, and the stage is yours.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much. Please, can you allow me to share my screen? Okay. Greetings to all of you. Thank you, Professor Nada, for your kind introduction. Thank you, Professor Yasmina, for a wonderful presentation, as well as thank you so much, Professor Yanina. I learned a lot about your university at Ukraine. So, firstly, I would like to thank you, Professor Partel, for inviting me. Really, I'm very honored and grateful to be a part of this wonderful conference. Now, I am Enkelida Lulay from Kosovo. I work at the University Ecdsed, Faculty of Management in Tourism, Hospitality and Environment. I am professor for finance and accounting. Also, I am senator at the university. Thank you once again. I'm very proud to be here. Now, I will talk about today. I will talk about e-learning project and experiences, as well as does financial stress affect students' performance during online learning. I will make a relationship between my experiences with my students and my scientific paper in the Kosovo's universities during COVID-19, accepted by Web of Science. Now, I invite you to listen carefully, because you will learn a lot about does financial stress affect students' performance during online learning. At the end, you will see the recommendation that will help the university at my country, Kosovo, as well as around the world. In the slide, you can see introduction, the objectives of this presentation. As I told, I am professor of finance. I will make a relationship between learning and finances. Money and finances play a very important role in our lives, in our families, in our society as well. Online learning is a learning process which takes place through the internet as one of the forms of distance learning. This way of learning is being used in every country of the world as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The objectives of this presentation: general information about e-learning projects and experiences, a new point of view that change basic attitude, learn a special skill. E-learning project and experiences, does financial stress affect students' performance during online learning? Now, in the slide, we can see some quotes or citation about personal finances, e-learning, financial stress, financial stability, etc. We don't care what people know, we care what they do. It's all about performance. poor spending habits led to poverty. Now, if you buy things you do not need, soon you will have to sell things that you need. Don't tell me where your priorities are. Show me where you spend your money, and I will tell you what they are, says from Frick, James Frick. What is education? Education brings a natural change in an individual's reasoning and ability to achieve the target goal. It facilitates us to investigate our own consideration and thoughts and make it ready to express it in various shapes. So, education also means helping people to learn how to do things and encouraging them to think about what they learn. Education also is one of the main components that brings growth and progress in a society. The more people in a society are educated, the more they can make a beneficial contribution to their environment. We as a society all over the world are in an era of lifelong learning, so we must be committed to the maximum to raise the quality of education. Since teachers, professors, and students are unique in nature, it is essential to find ways to communicate with each student individually. In this case, increased collaboration between teachers, as well as professors at universities and students, affect the harmony between teaching and learning. The main attributes that affect the growth of cooperation are respect, satisfaction for work and learning, continuous reflection, and improvement. Now, in this slide, we can see e-learning from my experiences over 10 years. E-learning projects and experiences. The focus of much e-learning activity is upon the development of courses and their resources. Successful e-learning takes place within a complex system involving the students' experiences of learning, teachers' strategies, teachers' planning and thinking, and the teaching learning content. So staff development for e-learning focuses around the level of technological delivery strategies, when other issues such as the professor's conception of learning has a major influence on the planning of courses, development of teaching strategies, and what students learn. While e-learning offers promising opportunities, many leaders, many deans, many managers are challenged with how to initiate a strategy that gets results and is sustainable. The complexity involved with creating a successful strategy can be overwhelming, and there are relatively few practical resources to help. One of the major considerations that arise when creating your strategy for e-learning is how all the pieces work together to support your faculty, your school, your college goals, and the goals of the learner. To achieve this, your strategy, don't forget, please, should create a unified learning environment that is connected and optimize it for your faculty, for your university, for your college, as well as for your school. You can see some elements about e-learning projects and experiences. The number one is set your goals and how you will measure progress. Your first step in creating an e-learning strategy is to make goals so you and your team know what you are working towards. This means looking at why you are adopting e-learning and what you hope to accomplish by doing so. From there, you can identify clear goals and learning objectives that follow the reasons for using e-learning and inform every future decision during the process. The number two is often the goals are financial. You should also establish a means for measuring your progress. What evidence is required for you to know that you are moving towards meeting your goals? Consider what signs or accomplishment will signify that you are moving forward. The number two is define your audience. You have probably heard the term know your audience. It applies to many situations, including your strategy for e-learning. Many decisions made while you are planning and implementing e-learning courses will depend on how they offer. It will be easier for you to make these discussions when you have a clear definition of who your e-learning efforts are meant to be benefit in the end and what their needs are. The number three is decide on your content. The needs of your audience will largely decide your content. What do they need to learn? What is the best way to teach the course's material? What is the best web-based environment for them to learn in? What learning technologies will best meet their learning needs? What support can we provide them? Will social learning add to the experiences? Don't forget, please, for this question. So content can be delivered via videos with interactive graphics design that keeps the learner motivated. Self-assessments can be used to provide learner a pause for reflection and an opportunity to apply their knowledge and test their understanding. Incorporation discussions can offer learners a chance to share their experience and ideas and encourage collaboration with real professionals with contribute. Bottom line is creating engaging e-learning content can increase motivation and promote a more effective e-learning experiences for your audience. The number 4 is set up your data and infrastructure. The how of setting up your data and infrastructure may be daunting at first, but that is where a great learning management system comes into play. Your LMS or new learning and teaching environment will be an e-learning environment for members and an analytical tool for you. So it will provide the platform where you build and house your online courses and materials and where students will access them. The number 5 is fine-tuning your strategy with the basic out of the way. It's time to look at the smaller details of your strategy and make discussions on how your e-learning courses should work for students. For instance, should courses be self-paced or guided? Will video content be all pre-recorded or will there be live elements? How long should it take to complete a lesson or a courses? Now is when you are in the nitty-gritty of what will make your online courses successful. Keep in mind, everything you laid out in the first 4 steps to give yourself guidance. Most importantly, always remember the initial goals you set for e-learning. Now in this slide, we can see the graphic for my scientific paper published in Web of Science. We can see relationship or connection between online learning performance universities in my country, COVID-19 students, households or economy, families, economies, and financial stress. Also, we can see 3 variables: financial impact on the new teaching and learning environment, MNN, financial impact and problems related to lack of dedication to learning, PMPM, stresses from COVID-19 related to financial and learning factors, SCS. As it was emphasized in the introduction, the purpose and the main objectives of this presentation is the correlation between the factors financial stress and the teaching learning factor in new era to students in University of Kosovo during the online learning. Do these factors correlate with each other and do they affect students' performance? Based on these issues, the findings from econometric models will provide recommendation for universities in the state of Kosovo. For this study, data was collected from higher education institutions, more specifically in Kosovo public universities. The survey was completed with master, bachelor, and PhD level. In this slide, we can see the results about financial impact on the new teaching and learning environment, MMN. Does financial stress affect students' performance during online learning? So the financial impact for students and their families for the reasons of COVID-19 in the new teaching and learning environment in order to meet the condition to continue online learning have been increased. In this case, higher education is also facing various challenges in the process of transforming the new teaching and learning environment. In this table, we can see 7 variables. So the correlation in the highest percentage of 19% has the variables MMN1 with variables MMN3, which means that if students do not have concentration while online learning, their performance will decrease or vice versa. Now also in this slide, we can see the results about the variables number 2 or financial impact and problems related to lack of dedication to learning, PMPM. Now, during using the online platform, there are some elements which can be considered barriers to MMN or new teaching and learning environment for students, such as delayed responses by students. Professors are not always available to respond in students' time, motivation diminished by students, feeling of isolation due to lack of presence of classmates, poor network, or outdated computer that can slow down the use of lecture materials. So these problems can be overcome with the help of teachers or professors who adapt their new teaching and learning environment strategies to the needs of the students. Therefore, to achieve this, professors or teachers should have knowledge and experiences in MMN environment. Now, also in this table, we have we can see six variables. So the correlation in the highest percentage of 80% has the variables number 3, PM number 3 with PM 4, which means that if students have problems with personal finances and stress, their performance will decrease or vice versa, because indirectly the stress and funding factors affect the students' performance. Also, we can see in this slide about the results about the variables number 3, or stresses from COVID-19 related to financial learning factors, or SCS. Now, tuition fees are quite difficult to pay by students in good times, let alone on difficult days, like in this case of the pandemic COVID-19. Distance save lives, but there is economic pain because many businesses are going bankrupt and laying off workers, employed students and their families who pay for them. And this has challenged and aggravated both financial and educational stresses for students. So even for those who can pay the bills, their gloomy jobs prospect after graduation create anxiety, while many students carry large students loan debt. But it is essential to state that not all students have the necessary condition for online learning through technology. So students are living very different educational experiences during the pandemic COVID-19. Now in this table, we can see 5 variables. The SCS5 variables has a positive relationship or correlation with the variables number 1, 2, 3, 4, but the highest correlation has with the SCS number 1 variable in value for 86%. A student's stress for payment is related to work and career. Therefore, all variables number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 emphasize that stress affects both factors, teaching and online learning. So in this slide, we can see a general recommendation about does financial stress affect students' performance during online learning. As general recommendation of this topic or this presentation for the state, for the universities, as well as for the students and their families, to the factors financial stress and teaching learning during COVID-19 are presented as follows. The recommendation number 1 is there should be concentration during online learning. Don't forget for students. The number 2 recommendation is condition must be created for MMN or new teaching and learning environment. The number 3 is there should be good communication with professors, with deans, with friends, with colleagues, with families. Also, the recommendation number 4, stresses factors should be removed. There should be information from professors or teachers on how exams and tests will be conducted. There should be a steady commitment for students by professors. And in the end, the recommendation about does financial stress affect is there must be financial condition for new teaching and learning environment. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Enkalada Zulay, on your wonderful presentation. This field is, for me, very close to finance and accounting. And I hope that all of us here learn a lot from you. And also, we like the examples and your work with your students and all you hear present about this great topic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Miss Janina.
It's my great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, because you are a great professor, you are a great scientific researcher, and really a pleasure and honor to be here today with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend, Professor Nada.
And you made really real research about students' behavior, as not like literature review, but real research. It's very interesting. Thank you so much for your interesting and very important speech. I enjoyed so much. Thank you.
Yes. So if we have some questions, please can you put it in the chat, please? Or you can speak and ask our you want us to make your feedback, please? Or do you want us to fill the forms to you? Okay. This is for the conference, okay? Do we have any questions for Enkalada? Okay, so we are starting. For 15 minutes is our next session.